Welcome back. You are progressing well, far exceeding your peers. Based upon your performance, you have once more advanced in the competition, and you have been specially selected for advancement to participate in another unique simulation experience to assess your superior aptitude for analytical capability and leadership in immersive and realistic scenarios, which will further hone and develop your acumen and ability, if successfully completed, and which may be encountered by senior level leaders. So, congratulations for your achievements thus far. You certainly possessed what it takes to advance this far, at least a notch above the rest. The only question is whether or not you have what it takes to remain further. Do you want to play a game? In the previous simulation modules, you had been examining only the path of generation in a linear battle operating environment, in connection with events occurring during the first month of an emerging public health emergency, which would evolve into what will be remembered as the COVID-19 pandemic. In this scenario, we will build upon the knowledge you have acquired thus far. After analyzing the presented informational facts, you, as a leader, again, will be tasked to render an executive decision on what actions to take, based upon the best available evidence. Do you have what it takes? Do you have the right stuff? Are you ready to be all you can be? In the last scenario, we had followed the timeline events leading up to the WHO Declaration of a Public Health Emergency of International Concern, or PHEIC, on January 31, 2020, at a time when the invisible enemy, a novel virus, had been attributed to 106 confirmed cases reported in 19 other countries, including the first 2 confirmed cases of 2019 nCoV acute respiratory disease were reported in Italy, in which both had travel history to Wuhan city. Although there had been no reported deaths in other countries, in China there were 9,720 confirmed cases, 1,527 characterized as severe and 213 deaths. Now, jumping forward to February 4th, when, in China, 20,630 cases had been confirmed, 2,788 had been classified as severe, and there had been 425 deaths, certainly validating a problem in China. And, most are aware that by May 26, 2021, according to the new American president, when tasking to determine the proximal origin, a continuing debate in the press and the Congress, the U.S. intelligence community had coalesced around 2 likely scenarios, but had not reached a definitive conclusion on this question. While 2 elements in the IC leans toward the former scenario and 1 leans more toward the latter, each with low or moderate confidence, the majority of elements do not believe. There is sufficient information to assess one to be more likely than the other. This is particularly important at this critical decision point, marking a clear transition in the phase of the battle, because according to the final report from the IC, published on October 29, 2021, since September 2020, a virologist who worked in a WHO-affiliated laboratory in Hong Kong has publicly stated that Beijing created SARS-CoV-2 from bat coronaviruses and that China's researchers intentionally released it. However, the IC had concluded that the scientific community did not peer review these articles, and some publicly rejected the articles' claims as scientifically unsound. This is potentially problematic, depending upon how the IC conclusion is understood, because it reveals some possible divisions within the executive branch of the government. In 2003, the Congress had passed an amendment to the Food, Drug and Cosmetics Act, known as Section 564. This provision had authorized the Defense Secretary, the Director of Homeland Security and the Health and Human Services Secretary to render a determination whether an Emergency Use Authorization, or EUA, could be issued, which had been done on February 4, 2020, by the HHS Secretary for the Diagnostic Tests, of which 1.1 billion had been performed by December 2022, and again on March 27, 2020, for what had not been described as vaccines, but as only countermeasures involving previously unapproved biological products. However, an EUA can only be issued under 4 specific conditions, all involving a chemical, biological, radiological or nuclear (CBRN) agent or agents presenting a heightened risk, not of infecting, but attacking military forces and citizens residing, not just traveling, abroad. Essentially, apparently at odds with the IC, the HHS had determined that the novel virus was a weapon being maliciously deployed. Yet, on February 4, 2020, no member of the military forces or citizen residing abroad had yet been infected. Was the HHS secretary lying just to authorize first the PCR tests and later the vaccines? Based upon the available information, how would you answer to provide a recommendation to the president? Truth or consequences? Did you wake the HHS secretary lie? This concludes this simulation, and you shall be contacted with the results. Thanks for your participation. That is all. Carry on.
This message was approved by Major Mike Webb. Honest.